All right, guys, welcome to Git Bit Podcast, the podcast for blurs and nerds, and for everybody who has a fandom is always welcome here. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and yes, we are pre-recorded just because situations have caused us not to be live today. So we are kind of doing this in a little split shift with me and Joe. So don't worry, near to fear, we're still going to get you guys your comic book, your video games, your everything in the world of pop culture fix that we try to do. Now, before we get started, we are a family-friendly podcast. Most of the time, we do try to watch our language. Sometimes words do fly, and then sometimes we may show things that might be a little graphic for young viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, guys, welcome. So, I just want to go ahead and get into it. I cannot stop bragging about this game. I am talking about FarCry 6. Now, FarCry 6, if you guys already know, it's been out for a while. I actually got to play it, and honestly, I love what they did with the story. I love the mechanics of it all. I love the ingenuity of the weapons, and I actually have beaten the main campaign at this point. And I say main campaign because I still think there's going to be some DLC for Far Cry 6 coming. But Giancarlo Esposito is the villain that we needed for Far Cry 6. And not to say there was nothing against the previous Far Cries that have came out, but he and this role and the story of telling of just the Yara Revolution is just amazing to me. At the same time, it's like most Far Cry stories. Like for me, my favorite, like aside from 6, my favorite is still Far Cry 3 because it tells an interesting story. But 6, I will say this, aside from just the weapons, the crafting, learning how to do certain things, it's just smooth. But what got me was the story. And with the story itself, guys, I mean, if you're a fan of first-person shooters, Far Cry 6 is definitely worth playing. And I'm not trying to go too much into the spoilers of the story, but if you watched enough Ubisoft trailers and you've probably been on YouTube and seen enough walkthroughs and playthroughs of it, so you either have a good idea or you're trying to keep yourself from spoiling yourself about the game. But I just cannot stop raving about this. It's very few times that I will give a standing. I will beat the main campaign of a game and give a standing ovation, and I definitely did for this. Not only because I love the actor who played the villain in this movie, but the story itself. I have to give it to Ubisoft. They actually did a great thing with Far Cry 6. So if you're still on the fence about it, honestly, guys, it is worth playing. And I do mean that. If anything, for the story alone, it is definitely worth playing. That's just my opinion of it all. So I just want to go ahead and get a little quick bit because I very rarely buy games that have so much fanfare because I'll be Anthem and Cyberpunk 2077. I know I haven't went back and played. Funny part is I went back and played Cyberpunk 2077 since the bugs issues, but supposedly they're fixed now, and one day I am going to go back and actually play that game. But in this case, with Far Cry 6, it to me is just sublime. It is great. If you're still on the fence about it, this would actually be a perfect time for you to go ahead and try it guilt-free. Because sometimes, hey, we, like most games, we take a chance on them and get burned. Sometimes we're pleasantly surprised, and then sometimes you got some sleepers out there. Although I'm still trying to hunt down a PS5 because I so want to play Deathloop. I've heard so many great things about Deathloop, and I love the premise of it all, and it feels like it's an over-the-top game, and like I said before, unfortunately still for PS5. Sad for me, I don't have one yet, but working on that. Like I said, when you're an adult, you got bills. But also, moving right along, guys, I did want to talk about Injustice. The movie Injustice did come out, and at first I was like, it is amazing to me that Injustice came out. The movie itself came out well after 2 games and a comic book run. So, at first when I saw this, I'm like, we already know what the Injustice story is. It's like, will they stick to the comics? Will they stick to the NetherRealm Studios games? I'll be honest, it's like I kind of went through this at first with we've already seen this kind of feel, kind of like watching the Tomb Raider movie when you've already played the Tomb Raider games. You already know how it's going to end. But in Injustice, I will say this without spoiling it. It is still great to watch. Not alone just for the voice actors, but again, the entire story. For all those that don't know, Injustice is pretty much saying what would happen if Superman went dark side. I mean, you have the most powerful, arguably, the most powerful superhero in DC, and what if he just decided to impose his will? And the thing about this is, I love how they told the story. Because, a few times you don't really get you hear it, but it's like, you don't get the same feeling as if you played on a video game. Which, let's be honest, we do. If anything that's related to a video game and gets put into a movie, we relate to it. Kind of like Resident Evil's Welcome to Raccoon City that's coming up. I mean, a lot of people have some certain feelings about it. Joe has expressed his opinion on the casting last podcast, but for me, I'm looking forward to it. But then again, I have a low expectation because video game adaptations into movies don't really have a successful track record. Not as successful as your superhero comic book movies. But going back to Injustice, however, I like it. I mean, it was a great movie, great storytelling. And there were some adjustments. I won't say twists. I'll say adjustments because you'll be like, but this did. You have to sit there and I'm like, okay, well, they have to tweak it. And I don't mind the tweaks. But again, Injustice is still, in my mind, one of DC's greatest stories. And it is definitely worth watching if you do get a chance. Whether you watch it on Blu-ray or on demand or however you choose to watch it. However you choose to watch it. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, speaking of DC, we are one day short away from a certain thing called DC Fandome, which currently right now, as of this recording, we are now 23 hours less and counting from DC Fandom. So again, what are we expecting? To be quite honest, probably a lot. A lot of people are expecting the Batman trailer, which Matt Reeves has already sat there and said that the trailer will be shown at DC Fandom. I'm kind of curious to see if we're going to see the trailer for the other movies. I think we're probably going to see, although it's not confirmed, I just think it's a guess. I still think we're going to see the Flashpoint, or I should say the Flash movie, where they're probably going to show bits of Michael Keaton as Batman. I think, like I said, it hasn't been confirmed. I still think that, there might be a one-off chance we might see a Shazam Fury of the Gods trailer. We might see a Black Adam trailer. Because we really do need one. I mean, don't get me wrong, the last DC Fandom, was supposed to give us a Black Adam trailer. It was more animated than action. So, I'm hoping at this fandom, we see a Black Adam trailer. I do want to see Dwayne. I do want to see The Rock as Black Adam. I want to see because right now, DC is putting a lot of stock into The Rock. And I can't blame them for that. The Rock, whatever movie The Rock is in, he draws. I mean, it's very rarely his movies don't really see the mediocre paydays as, San Andreas. I mean, if you really want to be honest, let's go back. Faster didn't do, if you want to be honest, the movie Faster didn't do as well as, say, for instance, Jungle Cruise or Hobbs and Shaw, or I keep going down the list. Both Jumanji movies. Let's be honest. Every Hollywood actor, you have some okay movies, and you have the blockbuster movies. And don't get me wrong about The Rock. The man at this point cannot do no wrong, having the Midas touch on a lot of things. So I'm just curious at DC Fandom if they're going to show anything, which I think they will, because I think we are due for a live action trailer. I really truly do. Going back to the Batman trailer, I'm gonna be completely honest about this. I'm concerned. I'm still concerned. I'm like, of all the things DC can do we really need another Batman movie? The Batman story has been, don't get me wrong, Batman overall is always my favorite superhero, above all. But at some point, I want to see DC push other characters forward. At least give us a better Green Lantern movie. I'll say at least Green Lantern with Jon Stewart. I would be happy with that. Or, let's start pushing other characters to the forefront. I'm pretty sure Aquaman 2 has started filming, so we probably won't get any, I don't expect anything from that, just because they just started filming the movie. But there's other heroes, I mean, there's way more the heroes. I'm like, Martian Manhunter was introduced in the Snyder Cut, and I'm just thinking to myself, that's a crappy way to introduce a superhero that should have been there from Jump Street. But I digress. But for all those that are watching, what do you guys like? For me, I think DC should push other heroes out there. I still think there are many other heroes and heroines that could be pushed to the forefront for DC start, because I love DC, but this has always been DC's problem. DC likes to stick with the greatest hits. They don't take a lot of risk outside the animated movies. They don't take a lot of risk on the main silver screen. They don't. And I don't know why. Because Wonder Woman was a great hit. Wonder Woman 84 was probably an hour and 30 minutes too long, and it had some questionable storylines, but still enjoyable to watch. But again, even with Shazam was also another one. Green Arrow could be done. I mean, Stephen Amell is still in great shape. Just saying, still in great shape. But again, it's just one of those things where I'm concerned about DC fandom. I'm pretty sure we're going to probably see a slew of new shows. New shows are coming out. Probably some new, so not only some new shows are coming, probably some animated movies, because again, DC's bread and butter, which I can't knock them for, because their animated movies do make bank along with their toys and, you know, that whole marketing thing. I'm just saying DC fandom, as we're going to watch this tomorrow, and I'll probably be doing a live recap of it tomorrow, just to go ahead and have that on the record. But again, guys, I am worried that DC might not be willing to take risk, and that's what I'm concerned about, especially when pushing new heroes. You have a plethora. DC has a plethora that they can choose from. I'm still hoping for the Blue Beetle. I'm still hoping for a Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, because I still say that's a marketing in itself. But again, I'm expecting a lot. With the Batman trailer, I just don't know. I mean, again, I'm not trying to down the movie and say it's going to be good and terrible. I'm just saying I'm concerned, because I can't really see the guy from Twilight playing Batman. But let's see. Let's see what happens. Maybe the trailer they put out is convincing enough to go watch this in the movie theaters. I'm just saying I'm concerned. That's all I'm saying. I mean, there's no other way I could put this except I'm concerned. It's just like the rumor of the Disney spinoffs. Like, again, we know that Agatha will be getting her Disney spinoff as far as Catherine Harkness playing Agatha. Catherine playing Agatha, it was Agatha all along. I'm kind of hoping they go with the title for that show. Monica Rambeau from WandaVision is rumored to get her own spinoff show. And then Zia Lee and the Ten Rings is rumored. And then you have a Wakanda spinoff that is rumored. I can't knock Disney for going ahead and shooting out the park, because first and foremost, the What If series was great, and it feels so weird. It feels weird for a week that we don't have anything Disney related. We don't. I mean, What If wrapped up its first season last week. So this week has been like nothing from Disney except for the Hawkeye series, which will actually start at Thanksgiving. So. And we're going to be a little empty for a while. I mean, considering the fact that we still have No Way Home coming up, and then you still have Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We're probably going to see Nightmare Mephisto in that. We said it so many times. I've said it so many times in the show, it's not even funny. But again, it's going to feel weird having a Disney withdrawal for a while, because we've been spoiled. We've been spoiled with content. Let's just be honest. But with that being said, like I said, going back to the DC fandom, I'm pretty sure it's going to be great. I would say this, DC fandom, if you're listening, if you're going to sell shirts, go bigger than 3X. Some of us are swole. That's all I'm saying. I got big shoulders, big arms, and a big chest. A 3X is going to look small on me. Please, 4X's and up. I mean, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not trying to go around looking like I, had to fight a seal to get in this thing. But, anywho, moving right along, aside from my wardrobe issues, so because I decided to work out and get big, moving right along, guys, we're going to go ahead and go to the shows of the week. Like I did want to start off with, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, I want to start off with Batwoman. And I don't know if you guys knew or y'all look forward to it. I saw Batwoman and I'm like, how the crap did they get a third season? keep in mind on this show, I tried with Batwoman. I mean, with Ruby Rose, I just thought it was just poor storytelling. I didn't like Alice as far as being the main villain. I didn't like the whole premise of her, really kind of doing Batman's story instead of her own. I didn't like the showrunner's first season as far as the direction it took. It just was crappy. Even more so that, again, they bring in a new Batwoman, Brian, which again I'm like, okay, I said it all the time. I said maybe they'll go a different direction. Maybe they'll reboot the story. Maybe they'll go differently. And I remember saying all last year, it's a little hard to watch Batwoman because they just couldn't let go of Kate Kane. They couldn't. And finally, it's like the whole story behind Kate Kane honestly made no sense. It dragged on for far too long, and finally they put it to bed. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you just wasted a golden opportunity to retell Batwoman's story, and you pretty much squashed anybody that wants to come back and watch it after the second season. I'm thinking to myself, well, this is a wrap. Surprise to me, the CW goes, oh yeah, Batwoman season 3, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's try and watch it. And I did try to watch it. I really, really, really did. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad. The whole idea for this is, of course, it's gonna be spoilers because I'm gonna talk about what happens in season 1, Mad as a Hatter. It's just that they are following what happened from last season as far as Batman's rogue gallery, which again, for all those who don't know, he keeps the trinkets of all of his villains. Apparently that all broke out and got loose. Even to the point to where a fanboy of Alice found the Mad Hatter hat and of course with the Mad Hatter hat was used the ability to influence or mind control people, in which this guy does in this episode. Which I'm like, okay, different. I'm not mad about different. Because again, this is now her and now Lucas Fox's son, who is now playing Batwing, which again, I'm going to get into that very soon. Again, it's different, and I'm not mad. Even though in the story itself, the first episode of the new season felt a little bit convoluted, and I'll say convoluted just because they're trying to really in the first season. Let's be honest, in the first season of any show, you are literally trying to establish plots and subplots. You are trying, right? You are trying, and in this case, there was really so many subplots being trying to put down that it makes no sense. Of course, Alice now being in jail still believes her father will come back to get her. Of course, the fanboy is out there basically posing as the fake Mad Hatter, trying to sit there and be the White Knight for Alice. And of course, Ryan is about her birth mother, because Alice said last season that your birth mother didn't die; she's very much alive. The Batwing suit having defective issues, and then at the end of it all, Fox comes back and actually hears his father's voice through the suit, which again leads to something else. And then you have a new detective, Montoya, who already knows Batwoman's secret identity and forces her and Alice to work together. And again, I'm not mad about the multiple subplots. I'm not mad about that. I just think it's a little rushed. Some things can be established. Like, here's my thing. Some things can honestly be established as you go along through the season, but you don't have to go in the first season and go bam, 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 bam. And it feels rushed. It feels convoluted. It feels full. When again, we see at the end of the episode where a person we assume is Ryan's mother, is probably going to be who's played by Robin Givens, will now probably be a regular throughout the season. Although I will say this, as much as it was as convoluted, I still believe it was way better than any episode of the first two seasons, which again makes me want to give it hope. It really does make me want to give it hope when I see things like that. Although I will say this, with Montoya, when I heard the name Renee Montoya, I'm like, could she possibly be the Question? Now the question is pretty much who Renee Montoya plays in DC Comics. I'm not sure if they're going to bring elements of the Question. I'm not sure if they're going to even address it. But the name itself, when I heard that, I was like, oh crap, that's the Question. But we will see. But I will say this for Batwoman. as in its first season, I'm more invested to watch this than I was in previous seasons. So I will say this: it's a change. It's a change, and I welcome it. And I want to give it a fair shot again. I am more invested to watch it after watching the first episode. But you guys in the comments field, tell me what you think. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover Stargirl Summer School Chapter 10. I like to call it the dark, and I do mean dark. And this is probably, I'm going to lie to you guys, this episode was dark in a way, but it was light. Again, this is interesting. They do follow up after Courtney has learned about Pat's secret, about the JSA killing Gordon to stop Eclipso. And, of course, as you see there, Beth is actually talking to Dr. Midnighter. And she's actually learning information about the Shade. Now, again, the Shade, wounded, decides to come to Courtney and say the only way to defeat Eclipso is to reforge the crystal. And Courtney tries to do that with the Cosmic Staff, but keep in mind the Cosmic Staff is still weak. So, Pat and Courtney do go out to find Jenny, the Green Lantern, at this point, and hope to use the Green Lantern powers to reforge the crystal. Now, at this point, Beth learns, at talking to Dr. Midnighter, that basically reforging the Dark Crystal is a bad idea. The reason why is because it connects the Shadowlands back to Earth, in which therefore heals the Shade, and the Shade becomes mortal again, which I thought was a very sneaky way of the Shade. But then again, the Shade's not a hero; he's not a villain. He does whatever he wants to fit his interests. Not surprising about that. But again, I like the fact of the Shade character and the whole, that whole mysterious, like, what side is he really on? Because either he's for helping Courtney and friends, or he's out for himself, which again, it kind of goes back and forth depending on the episode. Rick we believe is visited by Solomon Grundy because he's still in a cell after nearly beating his uncle, because he was basically under Eclipso's spells. That, we see apples fall through the jail cell, and you're immediately thinking, okay, it has to be Solomon Grundy, which him and Rick do have a connection to. It's not a bad episode this time around. I still have a couple of things. Like, number one, Joel McHale, Starman. We only seen him in one episode. And then it was so weird for an Eclipso-driven episode. There was no sign of him. And I'm not saying it's not by design. I'm just saying that, it's for this to be a dark season, it just felt very, very light. It really and truly did. So, I mean, I'm not knocking it. We are still about 2 episodes away from the end of the season, because I think it's a 13 episode run. So we're about 3 episodes away from being finished with Summer School. I got no issues with it. I still think it's still great storytelling. It's like this episode is more of a builder to what's going to happen in the next one, to me. But solid episode, can't complain. Finally, I do have Titans. Season 3, episode 12, which is labeled Prodigal. And for the simple fact of the matter, guys, it was interesting in itself. Just because we thought, it just confirmed at the end of at the last episode of the Titans, it did confirm that, number one, Dick was dead from a gunshot to the neck, and that, as you can see in this clip right here, as Nightwing is pretty much dead, Garth and Raven go looking for him and decide to basically, and keep in mind, they were just at the Lazarus Pit. So they're actually at this point about taken back to Lazarus Pit when Garth, which I have to give credit for, he finally does something else than turn into a tiger. And I am not complaining about that, because I still say about Garth, for the longest time in Titans, I kept wanting him to really explore his beast powers. I mean, keep in mind, he can the reason why they call him Beast Boy is because, yes, he can change into almost any animal. So again, it's interesting where you see in this clip, which I thought the whole symbolism of bats surrounding Nightwing was cool. It was very Christopher Nolan-ish. So I'm not complaining about that. The whole sentiment behind it was actually pretty cool. At the same time, you just see Gar. literally going through the changes. I'm like, finally, it took three seasons, but we finally see something else that he can change into. And as you can see right there, guys, he changes into the bat. It changes into a bat, and of course decides to somehow communicate with the other bats to basically lift up Dick's body and take him to the Lazarus Pit. Now, inside the Lazarus Pit, however, was interesting in itself, just because Dick literally has to fight for his life. As you see that Crane is more of the, trying to be like the dark side as far as the where he's at. It explains that, you always wanted Jason Todd dead. You felt like, you wanted to be the only son of the detective and things of that nature. So it's more like Ra's al Ghul was taking the form of Crane, because he was speaking like Ra's al Ghul, but it's Crane's face. Which again, Dick does fight his way back to life and climbs out of the pit. Speaking of Crane, however, Crane is like, aside from slicing his face up, he becomes more and more unhinged, talking to himself, and says that in order to save Gotham, he has to destroy it, which finally means that Jason's role in this, I was wondering, is like, when is he finally gonna, take a stand? I mean, we see the previous episodes where he has those moments like, this is too far, this is not what I wanted, I can't follow him, only to fall right back under Crane, right back in step with Crane. Now we finally see that after Jason realized that Crane wants to basically eradicate Gotham in order to save it, he can't go along with it, and Crane finally turns on him. Especially when you see the sickle with the chain, which I was like, and it's like, okay, cool, I do like that. Of course, it's a nod to 52, which again, I dig. But I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. The actor who plays Crane has been phenomenal this season. It's just amazing to watch Nigel Crane as Scarecrow, and it's just every episode is just exactly that. Now, I'm not saying you carry the episode, don't get me wrong, but every time you see a Crane segment, you are not disappointed, at least in my opinion. And of course, as we keep following this along, guys, we know that Donna is still with Tim and his family. His family done became Weapons R Us. I'm like, where do they get all this firepower from as they're trying to leave the city? Tim is still wanting to be trained because he still believes he has a destiny, and Donna keeps saying no. I mean, pretty much, you don't know what you want. Pretty much explained that Hawk gave up his life so you could have yours back on the bridge. And of course, she's trying to convince him, but he is dead set on wanting to be a hero, which, of course, if you remember Tim, he does become Robin in the comics. The one standout with this was poor Connor. Superboy, man, Superboy got his I gotta remember, this is a family show. Superboy got his eyes opened, and leave it to a black woman to make a man's eyes open. And of course, he already feels betrayed because of what Dick did to him as far as kryptoniting him, and then kryptoniting Crypto just to keep him from hurting himself or putting himself in danger. Eventually, Blackfire, who now has her powers back, does find him and goes, we don't need the Titans, F the Titans, we can go out on our own. And poor Connor just wants to belong somewhere, and he's like, oh, I can go with you, we can be a crime fighting duo like Hawk and Dove. And in his mind, this dude, you ever seen a guy so sprung? Connor was sprung on this one. Nothing's worse than a sprung superhero, though. Just because the simple fact of the matter was, it does eventually go into the episode where Starfire does find them and then reveals the truth, and now her and Blackfire are on the same page. Blackfire wants to go home, but Connor, I still believe, sabotaged her ship, and it's only because he feels like he's been betrayed and left behind and abandoned for so long, and it just makes me wonder about Connor. It's like, is Connor about to go dark side? Keep in mind, he is the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor's DNA. I wouldn't be surprised if they show a darker side of Connor, and just saying it's lost and things of that nature, or he just may go his own way. I just thought to myself, as you see the ship exploding and then Starfire realize that it's like, did Connor finally snap? Hard to say, but again, great storytelling. Of course, also in the show, we see Barbara break out of her cell, because a lot of people, like, that detective kept sleeping on Barbara until she finally broke out. And still in the GCPD, surrounded by all of Crane's paid off cops, she does go back to Oracle. And keep in mind, this is after Oracle has been 86th, that she's now trying to reactivate it. Which, again, I'm just like, yeah, okay. I like to sit there and say this the whole time. It's like, why do we deactivate Oracle that you're now trying to go back and reactivate it? As you can see, for all those that have watched, see there and say, how can I turn you back on? And we now see that she might be basically going back to being Overwatch in the situation. And then at the very end of the episode, we do see that Crane did get to his eventual goal after Dick and Jason tried to track him down because now, oh yeah, I meant to mention that part too. Completely forgot that. Dick, after being out of Lazarus Pit, kind of has this epiphany about reuniting the Titans and getting everybody together, which he sends Garth and Raven to go after Superboy, which again they weren't able to find him, but found Kryptonite dust. He does find Jason Todd. And try and convince him to say, you know what, at this point we need to save Gotham and we need to team up to do so. And then they do go to the secure facility where unfortunately Crane's fear toxin was stored, which is now back in the hands of Crane, back in Wayne Manor. So we can only imagine what his next, what the next step in his plan is. I'm still surprised that at this point so many people know about Wayne Manor that, okay, I think a lot of bodies have to drop, including Crane, because they know way too much stuff about Batman. That's just me. But overall, definitely great episode. I am looking forward to it because, again, Titans only run 13 episodes. Next week is actually the season finale, I believe. So it's gonna wrap up. It's gonna either it's going to increase some storylines for next season or wrap up this season. But either way, episode 12 was definitely great. I'm just saying, especially the poor Connor. Connor got some Blackfire, and that man, he drove him nuts. That's all I'm saying. But then again, Batwoman had that ability on us. That being said, guys, I want to go ahead and get on to Joe's segment. Joe did actually record his top 5 comic book reviews of the week, so I'm going to let him take it from here.
What's going on, guys? Joe here for my comic book segment. I guess we actually need to title this, so we will be calling it Joe's Pull Box. We are going to be looking at the top 5 comics I've got in my pull box and discuss them and review them. As always, you can get all the comic books over at your local comic book store. For us over here at Git Bit, it is Rick's Comic City, found in Donaldson, Clarksville, and over in Fort Campbell. And also, you can get comic books over at your local library. They do have comics. So we will jump right into the top 5. We're going to be covering the Indie, 2 Marvels, and 2 DCs. First up, we have Records, Transformers Records, Tread and Circuits. This is written by David Moreau, and Jack Lawrence. This is yet another Transformers miniseries. I don't know how long this book is going to be going for. The art's really good. Jack Lawrence does a great job. For those of us in the Transformers community, this is a new style of wreckers. For those unfamiliar with, wreckers are usually an Autobot suicide squad would be the best way of putting it. They are taking on no escape missions. A lot of them do not survive missions if you've read previous books. This team, however, is more of a stunt show with the name Wreckers. We have Thunderclash as their leader, Ricochet, Hotshot, Minerva, Aileron, and Circuit. The long and short of it is on Speedia, there is a great race called the Speedia 500. At least I think it's Speedia. Give me 1 second, guys. The Speedia 500 on Velocitron. My mistake. So on Velocitron, they have a great race called Speedia 500. The guys are in town doing a stunt show when they get dragged into a mass conspiracy theory because a Decepticon unit made up of mostly pretenders, Octopunch, Gilmore, and Duris. I believe I am using the Super God Master Force names for the pretenders because that's what I know them as. They have hijacked the signal saying that they will be sabotaging the race and keeping it from happening for whatever reason. So it's up to Thunderclash and his team of wreckers to put a stop to that. Meanwhile, Circuit down here is confronted by, I guess, his evil twin at the end of the book. It sets up a good mystery. I am actually a big fan of a majority of the characters in this because I'm a huge, huge fan of Super God Master Force. I believe we had this in America as the Pretender and Power Master series. Minerva is actually from that series. Duros and Gilmer from the Decepticon units in this book is from Super God Master Force. Hotshot is from the Energon series. I have no idea what Ricochet is from. I have no idea what Thunderclash is from. And Aileron is from the IDW series, which this hails from. She is also RC's girlfriend. So that's that one. I recommend this as I recommend all Transformers books. I'm a huge, huge Transformer fan. Moving right along, we have Titans. Let me pull up who's writing that. Titans United is written by Kevin Scott and Jose Luis. The long and short of this one, and why I'm getting it, other than it's another miniseries, it's the original Titans team. It's almost the same team as the HBO Titans series, if not almost one for one. In this one, and I know I didn't review it the last time, so the last issue we start having people showing superpowers, somewhat copywritten superpowers, because the first guy starts having optic blasts. But they are running into Kite Man, who is starting to exhibit almost all the Titans' powers at once. Kite Man with superpowers is a terrifying thing because it's Kite Man. Not because he's a threat, just because it's Kite Man with actual powers. I enjoy it. The artwork's great. Story is fun. This actually is dealing more with Superboy, and it looks like Cadmus may be behind this. Plus, it's Kite Man with superpowers. So I recommend this. Moving over, we have Wonder Woman Returns. This is in the Wonder Woman's new series. Her team is, pardon me, we'll just keep jumping back and forth because this helps me figure out who's doing what. This is not Greg Rucka. I don't care what they say. So we just gotta load it back up, see who is doing this book. Doing this on the fly is always fun. There we go. Michael W. Conrad and Becky Colloon are the writers. Travis Moore for pages 1 through 22 and 30, and Steve Pugh for pages 23 through 29 are our artists. So the long and short of this book, guys, is Wonder Woman is back in proper continuity. She is making herself known back to the world that she has returned because she did previously sacrifice herself in the main continuity to put an end to Dark Knight's Metal. Then she went on her Godsphere thing, and now she's just popping back in to normal continuity, letting everybody know she's returned. This is good. I like this book. The Godsphere arc started strong and ended a little weak. Hopefully this is back to form. I do like that she is going to be out on her own in this book, if not dealing with some Justice League Dark stuff, because her mom is actually now running with the Justice League, so the Justice League are always welcoming Diana back. But at the same time, she's like, I'm good. I'm gonna go do some solo stuff. As you'd imagine, we have a whole gallery of people celebrating she's back. There are a couple people that are not too thrilled she's back, including Yara Flor, Wonder Girl. Dr. Psycho also is calling somebody's like, oh god, she's back. Well, we need to do something about it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I enjoyed this. I think it's a good, strong re-entry and a good, strong starting point. They do kind of give us a recap of what happened in Godsphere. Just a very brief one, but still. for Wonder Woman books, I say this is okay for restarting. Moving over into X-Men. This is by Jerry Dugan and Javier Pina. This is their Halloween issue for X-Men, and it's actually pretty fun. Everybody's asleep, and Nightmare has some fun. So we get to see Nightmare, which is not used too often. I enjoyed it. I really, really did. The artwork's always amazing. Nightmare is just trying to, like, scare everybody because that's what he does. That's his whole shtick. And then he makes the really, really bad choice of trying to get into Jean Grey's head. And Jean's like, you're a demon. That's nice. I'm an Omega level psychic and telekinetic. You're going to stop. I'm going to be nice about this because everyone deserves some kindness at first. Don't test my patience. So, of course, immediately, like, Nightmare tries it, and Jean's like, I'm still going to be nice about this. I'm just going to keep asking you to leave. Nightmare tries to make himself big. Jean just makes himself bigger to show how insignificant Nightmare really is in the grand scheme of things when going up against mutants, particularly psychics like Jean. So it just is one of those almost Saturday morning of curse you, Jean Grey. I'll get you next time. This was just a really fun book. It goes along with X-Men. It's a great Halloween story. Really, really fun. Rounding it out, we have Spider-Man 76. So this is the fallout. What happened? This is chapter 2 of the Beyond story. I mean, pretty much the cover we're looking at says it all. This is by Zeb Wells and Patrick Gleason. At least I think that's the correct name for that gentleman. Where are you? I've got so many books. Yep, Patrick Gleason. I was correct. Yay me. So, as the cover alludes, Pete is literally hanging on by a thread from the last issue where he got severe radiation poisoning. Ben, of course, feels awful about it. Pete is hanging on in the hospital. Since Ben is a clone of Pete, he calls Mary Jane and Aunt May to come to see Peter in the hospital. Pete is... Spider sense is going off constantly because there's danger in him. And his body keeps trying to shut down while he's talking to everybody, and this is only making it worse for Ben. And Ben finally comes to the conclusion of, I went about this the wrong way. Pete, can I have your blessing? And Pete's like, you're asking this now? It's like, I went about this wrong. I apologize. And Peter's like kind of giving him the, like, Ben's verbal coming up for just grabbing the Spider-Man mantle without really going to Peter first, which is fine. I mean, Ben did just immediately jump into it and just didn't think. Peter, of course, sends him his blessing, and then Pete slowly starts slipping into a coma. Meanwhile, Ben finds the UFOs, and he makes them pay for what they did to Peter. Ben is not a happy man. Not happy at all. Really, really recommend this book. I'm going to be recommending this. This is going to be on the pull box for a good long while. I plan on covering this arc until it ends, and then I plan on covering the other Ben Reilly book because I'm a huge Ben Reilly fan. I want to continue to see this is going. They said in 2 weeks we will be getting the next set of writers. So how this is going, it's going to be a rotation. So Zeb Wells and Patrick Gleason will be covering 2 books, and then it'll go to the next team of writers and artists, and then it'll go to the next team of writer and artists. Then it'll rotate back to Zeb Wells and Gleason, and it's going to be like that for, I think they said they have it out for a good while. Our legacy numbering is 877, so they may be doing Beyond until issue 1000 when Pete takes over, which I'm fine with. I get plenty of time with Ben. They're doing comics 3 times a month, so I'm all for it. So these were my top 5 recommends. Stay tuned, and we will be covering. Be on the lookout for my other show, Joe's Pool Box, where we'll be covering every book that's in my pool box. Those will be my recommends and my thoughts on each book. So you guys take care and have fun.
All right. Thanks, Joe. And yes, Joe will be having his spinoff show because I believe that he should have definitely, because he is definitely a comic book resource. His comic book knowledge is far deeper than mine. But Joe's Pool Box is going to be coming live very soon, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But thank you, Joe, for those top 5 recommendations. Aside from that, guys, that's really going to do it for us. So before I do get out of here, I do got to do some shameless plugging. I do want to talk about my buddy Big BZA Dot, my podcasting brother in arms. You can definitely check him out, either on Weatherspoon on Facebook or Big BZA Dot on all socials. You can find his Soaking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. The RAF, which is like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by Worldstar, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And of course, he does have his video game channel, Making Plays, which can also be seen on Facebook. So definitely check him out, either on Weatherspoon on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials. Also, shout out to Ari and Gee present Geek Salad, because those are also some podcasting brethren of mine who are also doing things, sharing and talking about all subjects of things, geekdom, and everything else. I know they'll definitely have opinions on fandom as well as other things out there as well. But definitely check them out on Facebook and YouTube as well. Ari and Gee present Geek Salad. Trust me, very easy to find. Aside from yours truly, guys, the link at the bottom, you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree that has my YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Git Bit, and of course the Off Limits podcast. The link I have right here is my IG 447. That's Blackfox 447, not IG 447. But my IG handle is Blackfox 447. If you want to like and follow me there, as I usually post a lot of things, movie reviews, video game reviews, inspirational stuff, and sometimes gym stuff. I know, I try to work out. It doesn't look like much now because yesterday was shoulder day and I can't lift my shoulders above my height. My shoulders are really above my head right now, but you get the idea. But aside from that, guys, like I said before, thank you all for watching. I know this is pre-recorded, but we still want to know your comments on everything we talked about. At the same time, guys, please take care of yourselves and each other. I cannot say this enough about vaccinations and about boosters and about masks and about just making sure that you are doing the best to protect yourself. Because when you protect yourself, you protect others, and you make it easier on our hospital people that are working right now, nurses, doctors, and everybody there. It just makes it less stressful for them. So let's try to help each other by helping ourselves. That being said, guys, hopefully, with DC Fandom happening tomorrow, there probably will be a live Facebook I'll be doing about that just to talk about it. But aside from that, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will get through this. Talk to you later, guys. Have a good one. Peace.